From KPRC2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
He is the congressman representing the 14th Congressional District here in Southeast Texas since January 2013. Randy Weber has won re-election by an average of more than 20 percentage points, rarely been challenged in primaries in a district that runs mostly along the coast from Beaumont to Freeport. In fact, if you take a closer look at that district, it's easy to see how big of an area that he has to cover, and it would seem to probably be a difference in priorities depending on which part of the district you're talking about. This week, heavy rain was impacting Brazoria and Jefferson counties. More is on the way there. Congressman Weber joins me this morning for, Congressman, your first visit to Houston Newsmakers. We are long overdue for this, but I'm happy that you're here. Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir, Cambrell. Thank you for the invite. We're glad to be here.
So we had a lot of rain in your district over the week and some more coming. What kind of concerns are you hearing about that? Anybody having some real problems now? Or what kind of concerns do you have going forward?
Well, thank you for that, because it is a concern, and a lot of people don't know. You showed a picture of our great District 14 right as you were getting started. The three coastal counties of Texas, starting at Louisiana border, Jefferson County, Beaumont, people recognize the Beaumont, then of course all of Jefferson County, all of Galveston County, then the southern half of Brazoria County. And this is a concern, Cambrell, because when Hurricane Harvey hit, we were ground zero for flooding. We had 55 inches of rain in Friendswood, 65 inches, I think, over in Drainage District 7 in Jefferson County. Both of those records. So we are paying close attention to infrastructure plans. I'm on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, which fits our district quite well. And of course, I'm on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, which also fits our district quite well, because Johnson Space Center, NASA, is half a mile north of my district, but about 7,000 people either work for NASA and or subcontractors live in my district. So we're paying close attention to the infrastructure plans. There's talk at the local level, Harris County Flood Control District, all of our flood control districts here, and of course, state of Texas and the federal level about what needs to be done to mitigate some of this flooding.
Let's talk a little bit about the challenge you have in governing today. Obviously, all politics is local, but there's a different perspective. At least it looks different if you look at it from the national level. What are your constituents telling you are most important to them right now?
Well, thanks for that. You're right. All politics are local. And a little bit of my background, which helps in this regard, is, of course, I've grown up literally in a 15-mile radius for 67 years on the Gulf Coast. So I know this area like the back of my hand. My beautiful bride of 44 years, almost 45, be 45 November 6th, grew up over in Jefferson County in a little town called Nederland. So we're from the Gulf Coast, both of us. Now, we got married, and I met her at Allen Junior College in 74. We got married in 76. We raised a family here, built an air conditioning business here. She taught school here, all of that to say that I spent 6 years on city council, 4 years on the Texas legislature, and now this is my 9th year in Congress. We have that background of working people and knowing what's important to our district. And so for us, it's a little bit easy in that we move all the time. She's my best not so secret weapon when I'm in DC. She's here going to chamber meetings, luncheons, open houses, ribbon cuttings, you name it. And so we appreciate the fact of being able to work at the national level with the background that we have. Our constituents want less government control, less taxes. They want to make sure we get some good flood control going on, some infrastructure going on. Dike, you probably heard, coastal barrier protection is important to us. Energy is important to us, Cambrell, because our district has 5 ports, more than any other member in Congress. We have 5 ports. And so for us, energy is huge. Export, trade, all of that is huge. And then, of course, Texas, we're from Texas, so they say protect the Second Amendment. We don't want them doing anything done away with the Second Amendment. Yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
So, and that strays away from what the spotlight is nationally. So the national spotlight is altogether different. Doesn't deal with any of that stuff. It deals with those hot button issues there. Let's talk about bipartisanship. Is it dead? The trends of the past several years indicate that it is. There's not very many things that are going through that considered big that are bipartisan recently.
Well, bipartisanship is on a life support system, in my estimation. As I've already pointed out, I've been very, very active in the Republican Party since Reagan ran for re-election, then city council, state legislature, and now Congress. So I've paid attention a long time. I've never seen it like this. You make a good point. I don't know that bipartisanship is dead. We actually do work. I talked about the Republican Texas delegation, but we've got good Democrat friends in the Texas delegation. Sylvia Garcia, Lizzie Fletcher, Al Green are good Democrat friends of ours, and we're working on those local issues together. And in terms of, for example, coastal barrier protection, coastal spine, whatever you want to call it, flood control, things that help our area. We work together on payment protection program, with the pandemic stuff that rolled out. Mm-hmm. So I would say for Texas, it's not dead. Now, the rest of the country, they're kind of a different case. We think Texas is special. The rest of the country is a different case. So
what's going on? Can you give me an insight on what's happening in the Republican Party these days? I mean, you seem to be, as a party, pretty unified against much of what the Biden administration proposes these days. And we look at the shadow of the former President Trump. He seems to still have a big impact on your party, especially if we talk about those in leadership in your party. The case in point is Liz Cheney, who was voted out recently in her leadership roles because of her outspoken comments about the former president. That was a move that you supported. How would you define what your party stands for these days?
Well, I want to say this about Liz Cheney. I actually was the last one to speak in the GOP conference meeting when she left that day, the second time that we had a vote of confidence. Of course, the second was no confidence. We thank her for her leadership. She stepped up to run for the GOP conference leader. I think where she got in trouble, Cameron, was, she's an independent, she's a congresswoman from Wyoming, of course, and she's a very delightful person, very smart. And she didn't agree with President Trump, a lot of his stuff. And she's entitled to have that opinion, entitled to speak out against it. What happened, what got her in trouble was, as the GOP conference, you can't speak out against the leader of the party if you're going to be third in command or charge, if you will, in the GOP conference. Speak as a Wyoming, congresswoman, fine, no problem. If his policies and what he's doing is bad for Wyoming, voice that opinion, that's great. When she did it as GOP conference chair, that was where she got into trouble. Now, and so she left, and so I appreciate Liz's service. And I stood up at the end and said, look, we owe her. Don't we owe her a thank you? And the GOP conference gave her a standing ovation as she was leaving. I think she might have even got out the back door before I got to make my motion at the very end. But they gave her a standing ovation. The GOP conference is actually more unified. Now, Biden's policies, what we talked about earlier, whether it's increasing taxes, whether it's trying to get more gun control, whether it's trying to do a lot more green deals. Unfortunately for us, some of the things that he said during campaign, he would be a unifier. We don't see him doing because the Democrats are ramming things through the House, or at least I can see it on my side easy, and the Senate, without any Republican input, not many committee hearings, not allowing Republican amendments. And so when we're saying, look, this, we want to have some input, we want to be able to make amendments, let's do this in a bipartisan fashion. We're not seeing that out of the Pelosi leadership.
Well, I want to continue our conversation. We're going to do Newsmakers Extra. You've been nice enough to stick around and do this. And so we're going to talk about some of the votes that have been taken recently that you've been voting against. I want to ask you why. And your concerns about finding a positive outlook for this country going forward, because we need that right now. I'm going to talk about that on the other side. Thank you very much for being willing to stick around and do that. Just ahead, we're going to talk about the concerns that are going on now in the LGBTQ community about laws being passed around the country, what some of those laws are, and the Human Rights Campaign is rising up to at least call attention to what they say is a disturbing trend.